Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another section reading of Helger Zeiner's section 132 or 132 as I like to say, A Child Bride Forced into Polygamy. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as we jump into this next chapter. My original intentions were to be off camera and lay down and read it, but my signal keeps going in and out, and I'm nervous about how that will come across in the recording. So here I am. We are in chapter 20. The week had flown by. Richard had pressured the surveyors to drop every other job they had going and instead measure and stake the parcel of land he had agreed to buy from Jake, which means he's ready to pay $10,000 per acre. You're already stretched and you're going to pay more money. He did not think this through. And he is risking losing his business because of this. Part of me wonders if he can go above Jake and talk to the actual church in order to do this, but I don't think that's a thing. But it sounds to me like he's about to pay this money, and we know he doesn't have it. So how is he about to do this? Let's see. While they were recording its exact size, so the lawyers, okay, that was a big pause. I'm going to read over from the beginning because I shouldn't have ran my mouth yet. The week had flown by. Richard had pressured the surveyors to drop every other job they had going and instead measure and stake the parcel of land he had agreed to buy from Jake. While they were recording its exact size so the lawyers could draw up final purchase contract, he had to persuade his bankers to extend his credit line beyond its original limit to cover the needed $35,000. I'm not sure where the 5 is coming from. Maybe it's because he's having to pay for what the surveyors are doing and things of that nature. But either way, he's asking for $35,000 more dollars. This was a real struggle. Considering the size of the initial loan, the relatively small amount of money he now needed seemed insignificant, but it turned into a major issue for the prudent bank manager handling his account. Richard moved a step higher and met with his superiors. Unfortunately, even there, the bankers did not see the bigger picture. Their narrow-minded and overly cautious attitude made Richard so furious that he lost his temper and called the headquarters manager a tight-ass queen before he stormed out of the meeting. Yeah, I don't think you're going to get money when you decide to insult everyone. Like, you're throwing a tantrum because you made this decision, because you decided to do this without properly looking into a lot of things. And it just goes to show you that his real side, in my opinion, comes out when he doesn't get his way. So even though Richard, in the beginning, I kind of liked him, as each chapter goes on, I'm finding myself disliking Richard because Richard himself comes across as a jerk. But y'all tell me what you think. After he had cooled down again, he realized that this unprofessional attitude had only created further complications and no solution. Exactly. As usual, when he managed to get himself in deep trouble, he called Daisy. I know Daisy is tired of having him on her back. Daisy needs a raise. She was quick to get in touch with a private financier, a wonderful woman called Linda, who charged higher interest than the banks, but understood right away the need for this transaction and acted with lightning speed to transfer the needed amount to them. So you're going off and getting mad and doing all that stuff when, yes, you're going to be paying higher interest, but this $30,000 or $35,000 can be gained via another route, which, as usual, Daisy found. It was such a relief to finally get rid of this sword hanging over their heads. Lately, Richard had constantly felt like that ancient Syracuse courtier who, okay, Courtier, I hope I said that right, who had to sit at King Darius's banquet with a sword dangling on a horse hair over his head. I don't think if I said that. Alexa, how do you pronounce DionYsius?
I pronounce that Dionysius.
Okay, Alexa, stop. Dionysius banquet with a sword dangling on a horsehair over his head. Of course, this was only meant to be symbolic display of the constant danger a ruler is exposed to. But even when Richard had heard the story for the first time in history class, he had considered it a ruthless and senseless demonstration of power, of the same kind bankers seem to enjoy nowadays. Next morning, Daisy was back from Camp Looms. She had not been as shocked as her boss about Jake's exorbitant demand, but she did beat herself up over the fact that she had not bothered to check the attendance list from the public hearing. Only 3 people had been present at this mandatory meeting. Jake Law, who they knew to be Jake's son, and of course the surveyor Nigel, who had acted as Richard's agent. To pay attention to the fact that their near neighbor was aware of their plans could have forewarned them, and in turn might have saved them a bundle of money. If they would have come clean with Jake right away, he might have been more lenient towards him. Yeah, if you would have if you were honest about it, and also if you didn't try to lowball him to like $500, like you could at least said $2,000. Now you really jacked yourself up. Daisy agreed with Richard that Jake's outrageous selling price was a penalty for trying to deceive him. Because she was so upset over this seemingly minor but very important oversight, he didn't even mention meeting Emma. He saved that for another occasion, one with enough leisure to sit down and discuss things without further aggravation. Daisy came to his office just before lunch and suggested they go and have a snack at the Bread Garden restaurant, which was in walking distance of their office building. "You look like you lost weight," she said. On the way there, they passed a bar, and Richard felt a twinge of guilt. Y'all remember, he got a thing with the bars and the ladies. Since that last miserable experience, he had not been bothered by any further sexual arousal incident by fantasizing about Daisy. Come to think of it, he had not felt any at all. When they arrived, they were immediately shown to a small table on the outside patio, and they both ordered a chicken wrap and mineral water. The meal would be delicious and quick, and they could be back in the office in less than 20 minutes. Now seemed as good as a time as any to fill Daisy in on the sordid little details of his last visit. As casually as possible, he mentioned having been introduced to Emma. Daisy smelled the rat right away. "Who's Emma?" Jake said she is his second wife. Now, he doesn't know that that's his second wife because it's really not. He doesn't know what number she is. He's just assuming. What he should have said is that is another wife. Daisy reacted shocked. "I knew it," she explained a bit too loud and immediately lowered her voice. "The bastard. Tell me everything you have found out about her." He did, at least as much as he could remember, but he could not describe Emma to Daisy's satisfaction. What was there to tell? "She looked okay to me," he said. "What is okay to you? Just okay?" See, Richard, you playing games too, because you said to us that she looked like she was only 20 years old. But here you're saying something else, which means you know it's wrong. Because why are you trying to cover it up? Because what, you don't want to hear Daisy tell you about yourself? Let's see. Okay. "She looked okay to me." What is okay to you? Just okay? Happy, sad, scared, pleased, worried, disgusted, cheerful, depressed, moody, troubled, content? What is okay? "I don't know. She barely said hello to me, and that's about it. How would I know what frame of mind she was in? She looked after her child, and then Jake asked me to wait for him in the car." "How old was she?" "Young, maybe 18, definitely under 20, and she already has a child." Well, what's wrong with that? A lot of mothers are very young. How old was the child? He didn't dare tell Daisy that the toddler must have been 2 or 3 already, so he just said a baby. What did she wear? I can't remember. Daisy took a copy of People magazine out of her handbag and smacked it on the table in front of him. Something like that. The cover page showed a woman in a light blue ankle-length dress with puff sleeves and a round collar. She had her hair swept back in a bun, and if she would have been blonde instead of brunette, she could have been Emma. 2 toddlers were walking on each side of the woman in the picture, but she did not hold them by their hands. She was looking down at the ground. The headline read, Texas Polygamy Sect Inside the Cult. Subtitles, The Wives, Why They Stay, and What Will Happen to the 416 Children. I wonder if this is a real article. If I remember, I'm going to try to see. Because it's very interesting that the author tried to put this in here. And we know some of this is, even though it's supposed to be fictional, some of this is based off of true stories. So I'm wondering if this is something real. Let's keep going. The picture jolted him badly. He experienced a mental roller coaster ride without shock absorbers. There it was, on the cover of a reputable magazine, a story about a cult he refused to acknowledge. In which world was he living? Why had he never heard about it? The woman and her kids looked like they stepped out of a past century. But the magazine, was from this week. And the resemblance to the young woman with the child he had seen in flesh and blood was just too eerie. Was he so self-absorbed that the headline-making stories rushed by him unnoticed? Yeah. Did he only register what concerned him or his business and let everything else carelessly drift by? I'm going to say, yeah. That was not good. First, the slip with the public meeting, and now this. Daisy tried to make him feel better. I know it's shocking to be confronted with one's inability to register certain things, but it can happen to anybody. It's called selective absorption. I wonder if that's what's going on in the world today. And y'all, this is me just speaking my truth. I wonder if that's what's going on in the world today when it comes to some of the racial things that we've seen play out on our screens, or we maybe have experienced ourselves. I wonder if people have selective absorption, where we only see and hear what we need or want to know. And the thought of that, when you really think about it, is scary. Let's continue. Come on, this is ridiculous. I must have walked past this cover on the newsstands millions of times. You had other things on your mind, but I'm glad it got to you. Her face was stern, but she leaned forward with the hint of a smile on her lips and a curious, inquisitive look in her eyes. There's hope for you after all. The chicken wraps arrived. They smelled of jasmine and ginger, and they were microwave hot. He took a large bite, had to roll his tongue around the pastry to cool it down a little, and was able to recover his composure in the process. Y'all, off topic. I can picture that, because I am one of those people who like my food spicy and piping hot. So I'll be like, while it's in my mouth, trying to make sure I don't burn a taste bud. So I'm picturing him like kind of doing that thing in my mouth. Yeah, that's where I'm going with it. With a full mouth, he asked Daisy if he was really, such a hopeless case. Yes, she said, toying with her steel steaming food. You are aggressive and pushy, which is good in business, but you lose your temper every time it really counts. As an example, you lost your temper in the bank. That's when it mattered. You going from person to person to person to person, like, because you go up the chain that you're going to get a different answer, when what you were asking for was a lot, when you already had to liquidate some of your business in order to be able to do this, in order to be able to even do this build. What do you have when you don't really have a lot of projects because you kind of like focusing in on this? So she said, you lose your temper every time it counts. You are clever even intelligent, but you are arrogant and self-centered. You are well educated, but you don't do your homework. You are single-minded. Again, a bonus in many instances, but you have no empathy and are incapable of showing emotion. Tell him how you really feel, Daisy girl. He smirked to underline his content. Enough praise. I might fall in love with myself. Oh, Lord. Oh, excuse me. I said content. He smirked to underline his conceit. My bad. Enough praise. I might fall in love with myself. She returned his smile, but hers was more complacent. You are such a disgusting person. It can actually be quite fun to be with you. You would be in love with me if you weren't my assistant. He laughed. But you are too straight-laced to mix business and pleasure. Richard had never made a joke about the possibility of them hooking up, but she took it as a joke, of course, and laughed with him. If I had a stronger character, I would tell you you were to shove this job. Then she turned serious again and pointed at the magazine. Take it with you. Read the whole article when you have time. Go back to the office and work. No, I mean with Jake? That's a done deal. His lawyer returned the signed contract to us this morning. I mean with Emma. What about Emma? Before she could reply, it dawned on him what she meant. Oh, no, no way. We are not interfering at all in Jake's marital arrangements. I do not give a shit how many wives or concubines or lovers he's got. That's his business. And as long as he keeps to the bargain, which he has done by signing yesterday, we will stick to ours and pay him when the money is due. Committing to his additional demand was just a loose agreement on my part, and I have no intention on following up on it. You're going to have to. You're going to have to, because you already tried to lie and deceive him, and he's going to test you. Now, I get it. Like, it's the contract is signed, whatever, the money's going to come his way. But with him, you never know what may happen. As soon as this had slipped out, he bit his tongue. Damn it, that was a big mistake. What additional demand? There was no point in trying to evade the issue. Daisy was not one to give up easily. Jake attached one condition to his agreement. I am supposed to go and visit him a few times. I guess for religious programming of some kind. But of course, nothing like that was written into the contract. You promised him. Yes, no. Well, yeah, I said I would. It was just talk. The way one promises relatives to drop by for a chat soon. What do you know about that? You don't have any relatives. True friends then. I always kept the promises I make to my friends. Acquaintances then. And don't tell me you have friends. Don't change the subject. I think it is a great idea if you follow up on your promise. She was getting quite excited now. It will give you the best excuse possible to research what's going on his farm. Jake will misinterpret your interest and may even let you in on his secret. You've got to find out if the local rumors are true. There aren't just 2 wives. I'm sure he has more. But I don't care. It sounded lame, even to himself, so he gave it another shot. Stop pushing me to do something I considered an utter waste of time. How often do I have to tell you I don't want to interfere with Jake's business? I truly don't care. Her fingers were drumming and demanding, staccato on the magazine cover in front of him. What about that? Tap, 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 tap on the blue dress woman. You were upset about this story. Not about the story. I was upset about missing the story, about me being so goddamn inattentive. Christ, I have to start paying more attention to what's going on in this world. A lot of it's important to our business, but it's not up to me to change what's wrong with it. I'm not responsible for all the sick-ish that's happened everywhere. Daisy leaned back in her chair and gave him a disgusted look. You are a creep. Then she started to eat her by now cold chicken wrap in silence. He waited until she had finished, then took the bill the waitress had placed on their table and got up to pay. Daisy was waiting outside the restaurant by the time he had finally been able to leave his money with the cashier. She turned the folded People magazine into his jacket pocket, then walked back to the office like an old married couple, seasoned in sparring practice, and he was wondering how long it would take to be forgiven. The afternoon was uneventful until the phone rang. The receptionist, who screened all calls, told him a representative from the Ministry of Environment was on the line and wanted to talk to him. He told her to put him through to Daisy. She usually dealt with that type of bureaucratic stuff. The receptionist had been with his company from day one. She knew who really held the reins in the office and was not intimidated by Richard's ownership status. I think Daisy is pissed off with you. She refuses to take the call and said you will. It's on line 2. He had no choice but to answer and spend half an hour quietly fuming, clarifying his plans to protect the raptor's nest Nigel had discovered when surveying his property. One was an eagle's nest, which was actually a great asset to the development as people loved to see those big birds soaring over their heads. The other was an osprey, osprey nest, abandoned a long time ago because those two species didn't get along. As the eagles had decided to make their permanent home on the highest point in the area, the ospreys had moved on. Meanwhile, the tree had died and was in danger of falling over, but the ministry refused to let them cut it down. They insisted the developer had to protect the tree in case the ospreys came back. A radius of twice the height of the tree had to be secured with no build, no touch covenant. Eventually, Richard gave up on arguing and agreed to the restriction, although this meant he would lose a valuable building site. It was nearly 4 o'clock. No self-respected public servant would be caught working after duty, and Richard didn't feel like starting the same fruitless conversation all over again the next morning. Daisy's office was down the corridor. Still annoyed over her refusal to take the protector call, he went straight over to see her. Most of the small room was taken up by a large chestnut-colored desk. There was only a laptop on it, a notepad next to it, and a stack of files on one end of the forlorn crystal vase with a few roses on the other. Her chair was turned away from the door towards the high window. She had put her feet up on the low windowsill and was gazing at the impressive mass of Metro Vancouver skyscrapers. Over time, one after the other had been added in ever-increasing size and height. 10 years ago, when he had rented this office space, he could still glimpse Cole Harbor, but now the view was blocked by impenetrable tinted glass facades. Some of them reflected the setting sun. "Come on, Daisy," he pleaded. "Stop being mad at me." Her feet touched the carpet and her chair turned around slowly. She looked at him straight in the face with as much disgust as she could express. He could have sworn he'd seen her nostrils quiver like a wild animal sniffing out an enemy or its prey. "Now, why would I be mad at you?" "Emma," he guessed. "Yes, Emma. Well, that's a thought. Why would it upset me that an 18-year-old with a child is introduced to you as Jake's second wife? What the hell do you expect me to do? Grab her and drag her off with me? She may not want to be rescued. How do you know? For Christ's sake, do you expect me to go back and ask her? You could try." "What? You want me to go up to her and say, 'Excuse me, but can you please tell me if you're happy with your life? Or would you rather be saved from your liaison with your lover?' You want me to annoy the crap out of Jake now that he has been cooperative? I don't get it. You're meddling in his affairs at a time when everything is starting to work for us again. What the hell is the matter with you?" It did not happen often that he got annoyed with his assistant, but now she had really overstepped the line. Who did she think she could boss around? You could just go there like you promised and check out the situation. Jake doesn't need to know what you are after until we can confirm if the woman is held there against her will. And the others, there must be others. It really made him crazy how she brought his promise into the play. How dare she? Who does she think she is? Who does she think she is? Who did she think he was? A lying bastard? He only agreed in the interest of their company to visit Jake. Didn't she know that? Their future had been at risk. She just didn't get it, looking down her nose at him instead of supporting his decision and covering his back. Richard felt as if he was 14 again, just helpless, unable to influence his parents' decision to take him away from his friends, his school, his first crush, his soccer club, his life as he knew it. Helpless, powerless, incapable, impotent. Yes, impotent. A scary condition, as he had only recently found out. He had just about had it with all those control freaks around him who constantly told him what to do. Vedamte Shish, I know I butchered that. Verdammte, first word. Second word, Scheisse. The crystal vase was suddenly in his hands, and without thinking, he smashed it against the wall. Are you a toddler? Are you a toddler? I get that you're irritated by her asking you to kind of make sure that the women aren't there against their will. I get it. If the roles were reversed, would I be just asking these women that randomly? No. Would I probably watch to see how their interactions are? Yeah. And would I maybe wait over time for one of them to say something? Probably. But even if you're throwing glass, smashing glass because you don't like what's being said, yeah, you're unhinged. You're unhinged. You are. So he smashed against the wall. The bloody thing did not bust until a million splinters, as could be accepted, but remained one solid piece, thank you, and made an awful dent in the wall, spilling water and flowers before it fell to the floor and rolled unceremoniously under Daisy's desk. What kind of crystal glass is that? I'm not mad at it. They stared at each other. He knew that she instantly understood that he was sorry. He also knew that she had no tolerance for his violent outbursts. Daisy got up, walked around her desk, and started to pick up the damaged flowers. He stepped back, looking down at her. I'll buy you new ones. Forget it. You're abusive. I know people may say, like, Tisha, you doing too much with calling that abusive, but this is how he is acting with someone that he employs. Imagine how he would be if he was upset with someone he was with. This is the type of stuff that I think of. You're doing too much. At 6 o'clock, he could hear the offices on the whole floor packing up. Laughter, conversations, office doors opening and closing, the elevator bell ringing every time it stopped. He made it up in his mind and went back to Daisy's office, half expecting it to be empty. She was still there working. The vase was back in its place, but looked desolate without the roses. He stopped in the doorway. Behind him, some of his employees rushed down the corridor, greeting him cheerfully. As soon as the altered road designs are finished, I have to go to Camp Loops to meet with the engineers to go over all the quotes. Her face was a question mark. Why did he bother telling her? As far as she was concerned, they were not on speaking terms. I don't blame her. You're not going to keep coming in my office acting like a tyrant, thinking that it's going to be okay for you to act this way. It's not. It will take a while, and I hope you understand that I have my priorities. But as it is so important to you, I promise that I will drive up to see Jake as soon as I can fit it into my schedule. So, it might take a few months before I get around to it, but I'll try my best to find out what you want to know. You win. Happy? No. But you're acting like you're doing Daisy a favor when this isn't about Daisy. This is about her wanting to make sure that these young ladies, however many they are in a place and space where they want to be. And I think that it's admirable that she is thinking like this, because if the roles were reversed, how many of us would do the same? I look around a lot of times and I see what's going on in the world, and you see stuff on social media and things of that nature, and people are more concerned with filming and capturing things than actually lending aid or helping. And that's what I'm thinking of in this situation. Not in terms of filming, but he's more concerned with getting what it is that he desires, that he's not even willing to help if he could be of help to these young women. Daisy did not embarrass him further by gloating over her success. She didn't thank him either. She stayed where she was and simply told him with a very serious voice that this was not a game. I know, he said, desperate for the last word, but neither is what we are trying to achieve here. So please be patient with me. And that is how we're ending this week's reading. Y'all, let me know down below what you thought of this chapter. We don't normally get so many back-to-back chapters of what Richard has going on, but I think that this is going to like take a turn. We are currently not even in we still got a few more pages to go before we're halfway through the book. So I think that this is going to pick up soon. I mean, not to say that it's not picking up now. I'm enjoying reading this so much better than the last book. But it's interesting to see how we're getting the development of the characters, and I'm interested in seeing which way this goes. Anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me. Let me know what you thought of chapter 20, and I'll see you again soon. Until next time.